Today we unpack President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2025 budget. 49 actually, that's 49.7 trillion naira. Apparently this budget is the biggest in Nigeria's history, and he calls it the budget of restoration. But is it truly a game changer or just another bold promise? Good evening, Africa. Good evening, Nigeria. And good evening, everyone, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to Report Desk Africa. This is the show that puts you at the heart of the continent's most important stories. If you have missed me for so much and you forget my name or forgot my name is Bernard Akede, and I certainly do not do this alone. And yes, she has not been permanent on the show either.
I mean, it's no fault of mine, and I can see how they would miss you to the point of forgetting your name. It happens, but I know you know my name. Moving from the heart of heated stories to matters that concerns the stomach and, well, our total well-being. With the holiday season already here, Nigerians are finding new ways to celebrate in the face of economic challenges. From the numbers to the streets, we've got it all covered. I'm Blessings Mosugu as usual, and it's always a pleasure being here. So stay with us. We'll be right back to give you the hottest stories on the continent.
Thank you for staying with us. If you've just joined us, well, you only missed the introductory part. Now we're jumping directly into the show. Now, on December 18th, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented the 2025 budget, what he's calling the budget of restoration, at a record-breaking 49.7 trillion naira. This is Nigeria's largest budget ever in terms of naira. However, when converted to the US dollars, it equals the 2018 budget. But here's the catch to this particular budget now. It's happening amidst the rise of inflation and growing national debt. So, is this budget a lifeline or a leap of faith? Now, here's a report put together by News Central's correspondent Joseph Idong concerning the budget.
President Bola Tinubu arrives at the chamber of the House of Representatives, where members of both the House and the Senate are duly seated. Also in attendance are members of the Federal Executive Council and several high-ranking officials of the presidency. The session began with the opening remarks from the President of the Senate, commending current efforts in addressing insecurity and attracting direct foreign investment, amongst others.
The reduction in kidnapping incidents and the neutralization of over thousands of terrorists and insurgents remain another major testament to your patriotic zeal, your strength, and your determination to change the future of this country. Your dedication to fostering international relations paves the way for fruitful partnerships that will propel our nation forward. We are witnessing a resurgence in foreign direct investment.
However, he expressed concern about some of his colleagues' misunderstanding of the tax reform bill currently before the parliament, noting that those opposing the reforms may not have studied the proposal adequately.
It is disheartening that those who have not yet taken time to understand the initiative, the focus, are the ones shouting the loudest as critics. But we will make sure that we listen to Nigerians and dot the I's and cross the T's to the satisfaction of all Nigerians and for the benefit of this country.
Following his speech, President Tinubu presented the 2025 budget proposal to the lawmakers, saying that it will focus on education, health, infrastructure, and security, with over 14.9 trillion naira allocated to these sectors.
The highlights of the 2025 budget allocations: defense and security, 4.91 trillion naira. Infrastructure, 4.06 trillion naira. Health, 2.48 trillion naira. Education, 3.5 trillion naira.
He adds that through the budget, the government aims to reduce the current inflation rate of 34.6% by more than half of its current value.
This is an ambitious but necessary budget to secure our future. The budget projects inflation will decline from the current rate of 34.6% to 15% next year, while the exchange rate will improve from approximately 1,700 naira per dollar to 1,500 naira.
According to the president, the 2025 budget is not merely a statement, but presents government's renewed commitment to strengthen critical sectors for economic growth. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
All right, thank you so much, Idong Joseph. Now, the president has called that an ambitious but necessary budget with those challenging figures, if you ask me. And after calling it ambitious but necessary, I mean, he got a round of applause. Anyway, we're not going to be unpacking this alone. We have our very own News Central's anchor, Dapo Adegboye. It's always a pleasure to have Dapo in the house. Dapo Adegboye is joining us in the building. Just like the National Assembly, I would like to give you a round of applause. Thank you for joining us, Dapo.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure being
April
here.
wouldn't tell me I would have worn my suit.
Oh, but you look good.
You missed the memo.
Eh?
End of the year preparation. End of the year shenanigans.
Compliments of the season, by the way.
Compliments of the season.
It doesn't feel like it, but yeah.
No, it does. It's only the Hamatan that reminds me that it's Christmas.
Exactly,
Besides
and the
that,
traffic.
And the traffic. Besides that, nothing else.
Well, I think...
Oh, well, and the tree.
Yes, yes, exactly. So if you move around Lagos, particularly at night, it's pretty lit in many areas. So it just makes you feel that the season is here.
Christmas is
You know, even though Nigerians, in terms of purchasing power, the reality,
I was going to say the streets are lit, but we are not lit.
The reality is really biting. But I mean, it's good to be here. And just yesterday, the president did present the budget for 2025 to the National Assembly. And I mean, for many who watched it, they would say they saw, you know, the president pretty much robust when it comes to numbers, when it comes to the presentation itself. And even though they are off course during the presentation, I mean, at some point it looked like the members of the House, a number of them started singing your mandate, but the mandate anthem, but that's not why we're here anyway. Looking at the numbers of the, of the budget,
I'm
about
sorry, can I just say that this is why I like Dapo? Just go straight to the point.
I mean, no need to beat around the bush, Dapo. Fire on.
Yes, so some would say this is the biggest in Nigeria's history.
Yeah.
47.96 trillion naira in total expenditure, with a revenue target of over 30 trillion, precisely about 34.9, if I'm correct.
34.9,
trillion naira. That's targeted revenue. Now, there are hanging questions. I mean, this, of course, is ambitious. You look at the breakdown, quite a chunk of it goes into defense and security, goes into infrastructure, goes into health, goes into education, you know, and then you look at it and the big, and also debt servicing. The big question still remains, how will it be financed, given the current economic realities? The president also made some bold statements in that presentation. He did say that he hopes to stabilize the currency and strengthen it by dropping it, by improving, you know, its strength from the current 1,700 naira, you know, to about 1,500. And he didn't stop at that. He said he hopes to drop inflation from 34%,
24.6 to 15%. That's more than half.
Even though many would ask that when you came into power, sir, what was the figure?
That's the question.
For instance, the naira to the dollar was around 700 naira.
Exactly.
And right now it's over 1,700. You say 1,005. And should we really clap about that?
Exactly.
You know, and then
you're undoing. You're redoing your
so I mean, there are questions here. So the big issue is, number one, how will it be financed? What are we looking at in terms of taxes? How would this impact on the purchasing power of Nigerians and also their earnings? And What also will this have in terms of ripple effects, even on local businesses? Because, I mean, we are looking at you saying that you want to rely less on borrowing, which is great, which is fantastic. But again, if you look at it also from the business perspective, what is the ease of doing business currently for small businesses, even large corporations? In the recent months, we know how many businesses have left the country, if we are to be sincere, you know, and as much as this budget is ambitious, to a very large extent, laudable, I mean, the theme of this budget is budget of restoration, securing peace and rebuilding prosperity, which is fantastic. The big question, particularly on the minds of pundits, economists, specialists, experts, is how will it be realized, particularly with the revenue target of over 34 trillion naira, given the current economic reality. So maybe I should just stop there, for that.
Well, I do like the directions that your questions are coming from, because it's easy for us to just call these numbers as we've always had it, without exactly realizing that the money comes from somewhere, right? It's not just speak it into existence, you know, that kind of thing. So, and again, my major concern is, let's even say we get the money. Isn't this going to drive us further into debt? And it's ironic because there is a budget for debt servicing. Well, it's like pouring a drop of water into the ocean, because we are already swimming in debt. And then, you know, having to budget for debt servicing, and there is a possibility that we're still going to borrow more. Not even a possibility, we will still further go into debt. That's one. Then secondly, I think that yesterday, I was watching the budget presentation, and it got to a point where he mentioned that this is not just a presentation. This would go further to solidify, you know, the economy and the security of Nigerians. And the question is, we've never exactly really seen these things trickle down, right? So yes, you are calling these numbers, but if it doesn't translate into anything tangible for the ordinary Nigerians, then it doesn't make any sense at the end of the day.
Okay, so I mean, for some that pretty much, blessed with, will I call it history in terms of trajectory of budget presentations and all. For some experts, they will look at it and say, given the current realities, even globally, it's expected that the figures would shoot up. Definitely. But the big question is, okay, so let's even say you're able to raise the funds and achieve it. There's also the aspect of accountability in spending. So let's go to the past. We've spent so much on some key areas, defense and security. We've spent a lot on infrastructure. We've spent quite a lot too on health. We've spent a lot, or a substantial amount, on education. Is it commensurate to the value that the country is currently enjoying? So let's start with security. Exactly. How safe is an average Nigerian? Even though we know that chunks and huge amounts of money is going over the years.
Yeah, so I was
have been spent in this direction. I had a guest, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
On Politics HQ, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Why do people do this all the time? They come here and sell their show.
I mean, you're preaching. I was going to say that Dapo, for those of our viewers who do not know, Dapo is, the anchor of
He's
Politics.
the politician on Politics HQ. Yes.
Dapo is a fantastic anchor on Politics HQ, by the way. So, yeah, bring it on.
Bernard, help.
I wasn't done. I was going to say, bring it on. If by any mistake you have me on Politics HQ,
you will carry a placard.
By the way, on Report Desk Africa. So go ahead.
So we had a guest who talked about ransom. Now, the topic came in as a result of a report by the NBS saying that the amount of money is Nigerians spent on ransom within a particular time frame. I think from April 2023 to about, I really can't remember the time frame, but almost a year span. And it was running into some really, really funny figures.
Yeah, billions. I think I saw that report. Billions of naira and in total about millions of dollars. I saw that.
Exactly. So, and then we brought in a specialist, and he made some very, very, what I call it, gory revelation. He said most times these people work in cohorts with security operatives. That's the families of the victims, and that sometimes security will even, some of these security operatives will tell you that, look, if you're not ready to spend, then you are not serious. So it has become an enterprise. It's become a business.
An industry.
An industry. Now this, of course, is in a country that spends a whole lot
on security
of its budget on security. Yet you can't travel from Lagos to the east, some parts of the east now, without fear of being picked up or kidnapped.
Without having your budget for ransom.
Your budget for ransom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that crazy. So, I mean, when you look at scenarios like this, it calls for accountability.
Yes, it
So these monies that have been spent in the past,
where did they go?
where did it go?
So I like that.
What is the value Nigerians are getting? Are we moving forward? The president, sorry, blessings, I'm getting at somewhere. In the course of his speech yesterday, kept making reference to security, as a, well, I call it a stumbling block to many of the projects and initiatives that they want to achieve, particularly when it comes to food. He made reference to security. So I think it's not just even about the big numbers now. It's about how these monies are spent. It has to be clear, it has to be clean, it has to be transparent, and it has to be open. Nigerians must know. How many Tucano checks did you get? What is the value commensurate, right? We spent so amount. How many kidnapping cases have been reported? Is it dropping? If it's not dropping, then why? So these are core issues. You know, while I had the guest on my program and was saying many of these things, you know, for you watching and listening, because I went back to our social media to read, and someone put his own personal experience and said he could relate on the comment, and said he too had a similar, where they had to undo the whole thing by themselves. So I think it's not just all about the big numbers now. It's about the judicial use of these monies. Then another big question, cost of governance.
Before we go into that, Dapo, I think, Blessings, first of all, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes. So I wanted to, I like that you talked about accountability in tandem with security, and in the spirit of selling our shows, right? We were talking about it on Jasiri some days ago.
I need a new show.
Sorry?
I need a different
Sorry,
show.
Bernard. Okay. I will talk about what happened in Ghana anyway. So we're talking about it on Jasiri, and we, some time ago, and we mentioned a case where I think some students were kidnapped, and, you know, security, or some children, I can't remember the story, but security operatives were able to, you know, rescue the child or children, as the case may be. And one of the things that trust these agencies to divulge information at their own convenience. They only tell you what they want you to know, nothing more, nothing less. And, you know, while they were talking about it, it was a successful operation. We're thankful for it. But one of the things they said was, oh, we're able to apprehend them using certain technology. And it was like, you know, I was fazed because you have this technology. Is it that you use the technology whenever you remember that you have it? Because first of all, what is that technology that you used? Nothing was said about it. When did you get it that we didn't know about? We've been clamoring for, oh, you know, better technological advancement in security. So this issue of accountability is a big issue, because look at all the monies that is spent on security, and every time there's a kidnap case is now banter between the government agencies and the family. Don't pay ransom, no, I'll pay ransom, don't pay ransom. And then we have so much, I mean, we should have so much that we can fight this, you know, kidnapping case with, but we don't. So that issue of accountability is another problem. If you're pumping money into it, we need to know what you're buying. We need to know that you're not going to accidentally bomb another village, you know, because you're not well equipped.
Yeah, so just to add a bit to the security scenario too, I mean, you talked about technology, which did come up, and you would ask, is it that the technology is not adequate or insufficient, or do we have people that are not you know, equipped enough mentally to be able to, you know, handle these things? And then I remember a scenario on social media. I don't know if you've seen some of those videos, particularly TikTok. You will see where some of these bandits would
display words of cash.
Words of cash.
Yeah, and even do giveaway.
And even, thank you, and even do giveaway, you know, on social media.
Meaning they're not hard to find.
They're not hiding to start with.
They're not hiding. So they don't even cover their faces. A number of them.
They're not hiding.
But guess what? Someone will protest against the government, or against some policies of the government is picked up. We had one on PHQ. Who told us how it was picked up? Lenin, Adegboye. And he said his phone was bugged. You know, his phone was tracked.
So it means that
they can. So what does that tell you? Two different scenarios, two different reactions.
So it means that there is this technology. Sorry, unfortunately, we're running out of time for the first part of the show, and it's looking like security is one of the hardest parts of the budget that we need to talk about. As we leave this part, I honestly wish I could say, join me on my own show. Let's continue this conversation. So there's also, we talked about security and defense. We talked about there's infrastructure.
Yes.
There's also, healthcare and education. I want to quickly touch on that in 1 minute. And it's also based on what you said, how these monies have been spent. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Now, and you have the figures on your screen right there. Now, still talking about some of these things, we've seen doctors go on strike year in, year out. We've seen lecturers go on strike year in, year out. Because of what? Because they've not been paid certain monies due them, certain monies that they have been owed. Now, I usually want to ask these questions when budgets come in, year out. The monies owed these lecturers, the monies owed the health workers, the doctors, does it fall into this budget? So we don't go back into saying, oh, there was some budget, that there was some money allocated for budget, or rather in the budget, and then in that budget we're saying, oh, for health, there's money for buying of medication, there's money for vaccination, there's money for, like somebody whispered into my ear, research. Do we have enough budget for research to develop our own healthcare? Right now, put all this together, we don't have the parts where the workers, talking about the healthcare workers, the lecturers, those in the education sector, now say, we've not been paid so amount of money. Are they also covered in the budget? It's a major question I think should also be looked into.
Like what exactly is entailed in each budget? If you say you're budgeting for health,
coming back to what Dapo said,
part of health?
So we need more clarity, right? We need more transparency into what monies, how is this budget going to be spent? It's not enough to give out the big amounts. Oh, it's 4.06 billion or trillion for infrastructure, 2.48 trillion for health, 3.5 trillion for education, and then defense and security, 4.91 trillion. How exactly are these monies?
I mean, the health, for example, is a very vast. I mean, it has
vast.
different categories. We're talking about clinical trials. We're talking about the
research,
staff. We're talking about research,
staff payment, and all of that. So we really need to jump into this. And I'm hoping that at some point, somebody did mention today after. This is not my show, but I'll talk about it. A place at the table. Somebody talked about breaking things down for the ordinary Nigerians to understand. So it's
just like what you said, a detailed breakdown. For instance, in education, we know that right now, particularly in public universities, students pay more in fees, even though there is a budget. But unfortunately, if you go to many of these public universities, in terms of infrastructure, it's run down, dilapidated. So what are those monies used for? I think I should just stop because I understand that we also need to go on a break.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but very quickly, coming up, we'll be delving into the current economic realities and the rhythm Nigerians are setting for this festive season. We did say that the streets are lit, but is your pocket lit? Will it be a cheerful melody or a more somber note? So stay tuned.
My pocket is light, it's not lit.
Welcome back. I don't know whether to be happy or, sad, but let's talk about something we can all relate to, Christmas and New Year, which is just around the corner. It's already here. But for many Nigerians, the season feels more about survival than celebration. And I think that's why I don't see it. I don't even feel the harmattan because I'm sweating. I'm always on the hot seat because of the prices I'm seeing. I mean, skyrocketing food prices, transport costs, shrinking disposable incomes. Nigerians are having to get creative every single day. But the question is resilience in this context a good trait? We still have Dapo Adegboye here to discuss this. And Dapo, you know that they've always said that Nigerians are good at adapting, but is it a good adjusting? Is it a good, because now even patient dogs said, don't they die of hunger?
The bone is not enough anymore.
I think I'll just pick it from the adjustment syndrome that you said. I'm sorry. I think that is, as much as for some people they may say, oh, it's a fantastic survival trait. I also think it's the bane of where we are at the moment. If we had been reactive all these years, persistently reactive, maybe things might not be this bad. Maybe.
All right. Maybe. Before we go on, right, there's just to put it in context, right, one of our correspondents in the eastern part of the country put together a package concerning, the Yuletide season and how tight things are. Chinwe Ugele, let's take a look at this report that she put together, and then it will give us better insight into what exactly it is we're discussing and what Dapo is going to unpack for us. Let's go.
Yeah, inside Oruba Market in Omahia, when Christmas is only 9 days away. Traders are in their shops with their wares displayed.
Since I am city, I am things are very costly. Everything, virtually everything in the market is expensive.
Madam, how much is your achara? You see, this achara I'm holding that is used to make Abia State local delicacy known as Ofe achara used to be 100 naira, but right now it is 200 naira.
Because of the higher price of the commodity, people are not coming inside to buy the market.
Although these prices will still soar before Christmas, they can still make some sales within the time.
Maybe from next week now, you see people coming in, buying things.
A comparison of the prices of things in the market indicates that 50 kilogram of rice was sold at 70,000 naira in 2023, but in 2024, it is selling at 120,000 naira. 5 liters of vegetable oil was sold at 8,500 naira, but in 2024, it sells for 18,000 naira. 150 kg bag of onions was 110,000 naira in 2023, but it is now 350,000 naira. A pint of fresh tomatoes was 4,000 naira last year, but in 2024, it is 6,000 naira.
It was not how it was before. Maybe someone would be like, how can I buy 4 pieces of onions at a rate of 1,000 naira?
And I felt pity for people buying it. Even me, I felt pity for myself too, because it's not easy.
The traders say they have no control of the market price because they only sell as they buy.
We don't buy on credit, but when they come to the market, because of lack of cash, they'll keep like begging you. Find out someone will buy something of 20,000 and pay like 3 times.
The people say they are overwhelmed by the development, but will still celebrate Christmas.
We virtually celebrate the birth of Christ.
Transportation fares are yet to increase for travelers.
Due to the high cost of things in the market and the inflation of things around us, how the cost of fuel and nothing. So that's why we have less passengers.
But before, by this time, you see people trooping from north, south, and every other place, Lagos, Abuja, all this place. But based on transport, now people are no longer coming like that.
By this same time in 2023, traders and customers were complaining about the cost of things, but little did they know that in a year's time, the prices of commodities would have doubled. In Omahia for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugele.
Thank you so much, Chinwe, for that fantastic report about the way prices have skyrocketed. We still have Dapo Adegboye in the house. Blessings Mosugu is also here. So it's a packed house, and this, like Blessings did say in the beginning, is something that we all can relate to. Dapo. First of all, have you started Christmas shopping, Dapo? Blessings.
People still shop for Christmas?
To be honest, nah. And I'll be very frank with you. The last time I really felt that, well, I call it the presence of Christmas, was many years ago when I wasn't paying bills.
Right.
That excitement. But now that, being an adult and the successive unfortunate, let me not use the word unfortunate, but the successive administrations we've had, it's always been the economy going up. Really.
I mean, every year we get to hear the same thing. But
thank you, the same thing. But this year, given the percentage, the jump.
Speaking about that, I'll quickly ask the producer if you can please put up, those graphics analysis that we saw earlier in that report on the screen, some of those prices, so that as you're speaking about it, it'll be clear.
It will be
what
clear.
you're talking about.
I mean,
we can have that from that package, please.
Before then, we know what a bag of rice was.
Exactly.
40, 30,000, 40,000. Right now, a bag of rice goes for over 100K.
Sometimes in some places, 120,000.
120,000.
Depending on the brand.
Beans is Starboy. you know, I remember trying to stock up, and lady asked me, "Won't you buy beans?" I said, "I had the beans." Beans, you know, you can't buy beans and it will spoil now. It's premium. Gary too, we know what it was, 500 naira per, what do you call it, paint model. It's now 2,500, 3,000, depending on the quality you want to buy. So, and this happened within a space of less than 2 years.
Within a year?
Within a year, actually. So, you ask yourself, how does this help me? How does this impact my earning power? You know, how will I survive? How will I feed my family, for those who have families? Let's not even go to big budgets like your rent, school fees, and all of that, you know, that a lot of Nigerians have to contend with. So the reality is biting, even though Nigerians will continue to talk, and we hope that things get better. But I think what our government really needs to do is go beyond
these are the prices you were talking about.
I mean, those are, the current prices. Before, as at December 2023, you can see on the screen there, 50 kg of rice was about 70,000. Before December, around January, it was even lower. I think 40. I know there was a time it was 40K. Now it's about 120,000. 5 liters of vegetable oil, 8,500. What you call a roro now is 18,000. You know, this you go on 1 kg of onions, you know, and then plant fresh tomatoes, 6,000. So it just tells you how grim the reality is. And guess what? People's purchase earning power hasn't really spiked. How many workers can say they've gotten a salary jump or substantial salary jump? Let me use that, right? And I was having a conversation yesterday, and the person said, to really be able to stay afloat with this economy, you're either running multiple jobs, or you have one job that pays you fantastically well in local currency, which is rare, or you earn in hard currency.
So, you know, most times when we talk about this, we've established that there is no middle class, but for the sake of this conversation, let's reintroduce that term, middle class. When we talk about this, we talk about the middle class. Oh, your salary is this. Imagine the low-income earners, or those who are not even earning anything at all. Imagine those who do the menial jobs. I was speaking with one lady who comes to help us clean the compound, and she was saying things like, this Christmas, her children won't see her at home. So at first I thought maybe she was angry at them or something. Like, what did they do to you? She said, no, but the reality is, if she's at home, they can't eat. So she has to go and work, then send the money, and then they enjoy Christmas while she's working. So she's working round the clock during the festivities. And it's just so sad because, like you said, people are now having to do multiple. It was before you even do two, you work 2 jobs. Now you work multiple jobs, as many as you can get. And you don't even have time to enjoy the festivities. You don't have time to enjoy. And I don't know how long this can go, but man, it's not a good thing.
Now, there used to be a time when, you know, family and friends or religious organizations or certain groups, right, used to be the ones that would take the fall for this, and people would have them as support systems. Is that still happening? Because now it's looking at, even the support system needs support. They need support system, you know. Well, so those groups, and then there were times when we were seeing, you know, earlier in the year, I remember that there was a time when the governor of Lagos put some kind of subsidy on transportation when the cost of petrol went up at a certain point, you know, and then after like 3 months, you know, that subsidy went away and everybody was back to status quo. So are we seeing, is there still any kind of support at all, you know, for the masses, either from the government side or from family and friends or religious organizations or groups that
so for some religious organizations, you want to give them kudos when it comes to the CSR, giving back to society. Quite a number of them are trying. Social organizations too, NGOs, a number of them are also trying. I know that the government has some sort of arrangement in terms of transportation this season. Just today also I saw a report that the Dangote refinery dropped the pump, even though it says from the current rate to about 899 naira. Some just say, you know, why not just round it off to 900?
Exactly.
900, and what is even the percentage in terms of from 1,000, right?
So 1,025.
Exactly.
900.
So the truth is this, right? The foundation of all of this is, no matter how sweet theoretically your economic plan is, if it doesn't make sense to the pocket of the people, it's nonsense.
Sorry, say that again, please.
no matter how sweet, theoretically, you know, your economic plan is, if it doesn't make sense to people's pockets, to their earning, then it's nonsense.
Like these big numbers just keep flying over their heads, and we're hearing trillions and billions.
Streetnomics don't lie. Right? Streetnomics will tell you your policies are working. Just like they tell you numbers don't lie. Right? So if it's not working, it's no shame for you to review it and do something fast. You can't continue to tell people, endure, 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 endure. I feel your pain. Yet, you are pushing them to the wall. Yet, we have a lot of people. Let me give you a typical example. Just yesterday, somebody on the road, someone tipped someone, and the person started shouting. It was lit, but you could tell that it's frustration. A lot of people walk on the road these days and are frustrated. It's not like they are not working. It's not like they are lazy, but their effort isn't complementing because the system isn't helping matters. So this is the reality of Nigerians. And unfortunately, a lot of politicians have this disconnect. I don't blame them. The state pays for everything. You know, and that is what brings me back to the cost of governance.
Yes, we were going to talk about that.
The cost of governance. If some politicians are made to pay for the lavish lifestyle they enjoy while in office, right? I'm sure a lot of them will have sense and not have sense while they're out of office. That's when you see many of them out of office and then they start being motivational speakers.
If this lavish lifestyle was not an option to them,
so for instance, you're a politician, you have a convoy of 5 cars. If it's from your pocket, you fuel them every morning. Nobody will tell you before you wake up one morning and say, please, Salisu, Aliu, and Mukhtar, don't follow me today. It's the reality. But when there is a disconnect, then you do what you like. And unfortunately, there's no system of accountability. A lot of Nigerians watched what happened yesterday. It just felt like Nigeria had slumped into a one-party state when they all started singing an anthem.
On your mandate.
So we ask ourselves. So I'm saying this because we can't continue to deceive ourselves. That is the truth. Hope is given life when people can see the light.
That is the truth.
So the question is, looking at the reality, let's be frank, can you see the light?
I mean, when you try to see the light,
it's you know, as a policy expert, I studied policy, first degree.
You just keep selling yourself, but go ahead.
No, the truth is, when you see certain things, you can tell. The leader of the House of Representatives yesterday was making reference to China, making reference to India, talking about the economic revolution, and I was watching him. And I was like, you are making reference, do you know the detail, what this countries did in detail? Intentionally. And not based on assumption or theory. So, I mean, I just feel that this is a clarion call for our leaders to really do something and act fast. It's sad that Nigerians wake up every day. I know the amount of messages I get every day, people asking me for money. People I would never thought would do so.
Let's not even go in.
So let's not even go. And that's the reality of many Nigerians, maybe watching me now.
It is reality.
So please, aside theories that look great on paper, some of these leaders should enter the streets. Streetnomics. They don't lie. We know that there's the people factor too. Some individuals will take advantage of this local narrative of, oh, things are expensive, to hyperinflate life. What are you doing to regulate them? An example is rent.
Exactly. Before you go further, now this is something I saw on social media. Thank you, producer, for putting this up. This is one of the markets in Lagos, I believe. Look at how crowded it is today in preparation for Christmas. I read the comment section, and somebody said some people here are not even here to buy anything. The markets the markets are still crowded, right? And in the end, after going around for hours, struggling through human traffic, you're not able to come out with anything tangible in the end, right? That's how expensive. But the point I'm trying to bring out here is somehow, Nigerians will still find a way to make themselves feel happy.
Ben, just to interject a bit, you might see a crowd in the market, but is it commensurate to the value of the money they are spending? So let's say you have a budget, for instance, of 20,000 to spend. Before, with 20,000, you could buy maybe close to 20 items, or 18 or 15. If you are coming out with 5.
And I don't think that people understand that this thing has degenerated so bad. Look at what happened in Oyo State, the stampede that killed a lot of people.
So sad.
Do you know that a lot of parents would have brought their children just to get freebies? Because, I mean, we can't afford to buy things for them, so let's just look at, I saw the number of children there, everybody waiting to get free things. And you look at these things and you're like, I mean, I'm not saying if the economy was better, they still want to participate, but you see desperation. A lot of, even parents are desperate for their children to get things because, I mean, if they can give them something that is commensurate to Christmas clothes, for example, maybe we don't have to buy them Christmas clothes. So these are the realities. The numbers don't lie. The pictures and videos do not lie.
It is deep. Unfortunately, we have to leave it at that. And, well, let's hope that things get better. But this will be a chance to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and hope that they actually do have a Merry Christmas because like Dapo has said and like Blessings has said, streetnomics, right? Yeah. The figures don't lie. We need to take a very quick break, which will be our last for the show. And when we come back, we'll be looking at the forecast to see what topics we possibly will be looking into come next week, which will be the last week of the year and the last edition or live edition for Report Desk Africa for the year 2024. To stay. If you missed today's show, you missed a whole lot. We literally were sitting on a keg of gunpowder, which we eventually exploded, but in a good way. Now it's time to go into the forecast, some of the topics that we will be looking at in the new week. Now we're going to start with Nigeria's renewable energy, and the Nigerian government plans to boost power supply with a $750 million World Bank loan and $700 million AFDB for the deepest power. I'll take that again for the Desert to Power project. Now the challenge for me is this is more loans that we're still taking. Now 80 million Nigerians lacking electricity, and the eHeart project aims to deploy mini grid powering rural communities and fostering sustainable development, which of course is a good idea. But again, for me, it's just the fact that more loans are being taken.
All right, now we'll also be looking at Ghana, where the country's Supreme Court has unanimously decided to dismiss 2 legal challenges to new anti-LGBT legislation that has been criticized by rights groups. When I saw this, I was like, this is not the problem we're having in Nigeria right now. If signed into law, it will impose 3 years in prison for people identifying as LGBT and 5 years for forming or funding LGBT groups. But that's it about the forecast. Now, before we go, here's something to think about. The economy may be tough, but Nigerians have always been tougher. Whether it's stretching budgets or creating joy out of a little, it's hard to say, but we find a way.
Yes, we do find a way, and that's why we do this so that your stories, your voices, your realities can take center stage all through. Now we hope that you join us again same time next week on Thursday by 5 p.m. West African time for more in-depth analysis on the stories shaping our continent and shaping our country. And hopefully, you would have had a very Merry Christmas looking towards a prosperous New Year. My name once again is Bernard Akede. I didn't do this alone.
And I'm Blessings Mosugu, the only constant face on the show. See you again next week.
We have Dapo Adegboye in the house.
Thank you for having me.
Our politician and analyst. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Have a great day.